Learn English easy. Welcome back to the deep end of the pool. I'm your host.
And I'm your co-pilot for today. Great to be here.
Diving into the world of Femtech.
Mm-hmm.
And before you roll your eyes and think this is all just about, pink gadgets or expensive yoga pants, let me tell you, the stack of research we have today is mind-blowing.
It really is.
We're talking about a $1 trillion economic shift.
Absolutely. It's a massive topic. Femtech, or female technology, it's a term that was only coined recently, back in 2016.
So it's still pretty new in the grand scheme of things.
Very new. But today, we're going to look at how it has just exploded from a niche market into this global powerhouse.
Yeah.
And it covers everything. Software, diagnostics, product services.
The whole gamut.
The whole gamut. We're talking menstruation, fertility, pregnancy, nursing, sexual health, even menopause.
And to do this, we've got a real mix of sources. We've got industry reports from McKinsey, we've got investigations from the Economic Times.
Some heavy scientific papers on AI diagnostics from a site called ArtsViv, and even these really fascinating case studies from the Global South via MSD for mothers.
So our mission today is to understand how this sector is navigating a real minefield. Because on one side, you have this incredible innovation that could finally close the gender health gap.
But on the other, you have these really serious concerns about data privacy, surveillance, and, well, who actually gets to access this technology in the first place?
Okay, so let's unpack this. We keep hearing about this gender health gap. It sounds a bit like a marketing buzzword, but the economic reality behind it is staggering.
It is. And to start, we have to look at the numbers. According to a major report by McKinsey, closing the women's health gap isn't just a nice-to-have social goal. It's a $1 trillion opportunity for the global economy.
Wow. Okay, 1 trillion. That's not a number you just throw around. How do they even get to that figure? Is that just like sales of new apps?
No, and that's the crucial distinction here. It's not just about selling more products to women. It's about the cost of inaction.
The cost of doing nothing?
Exactly. It's about productivity. When women suffer from unmanaged health issues, things like severe menopause symptoms, endometriosis, or fertility struggles, they often have to scale back their hours or, in many cases, leave the workforce entirely.
Right. I was reading in one of the other reports from Biki.io that women spend a huge portion of their lives in poor health compared to men simply because the medical system hasn't prioritized their specific conditions.
That's it. So if you fix the health issue, you keep that talent, that experience in the economy.
It seems so obvious when you put it like that.
It does. When you look at the macroeconomics, if women are healthier, they participate more in the workforce, they earn more, and that boosts the GDP. It's a direct correlation. But for a long time, the medical community they didn't see it that way.
And this leads us to the historical root of the problem, which is something called the male standard.
The male standard. For decades, for a century really, medical knowledge, diagnostic criteria, even drug trials were based principally on a male standard.
Specifically, a 70-kilogram white male, right? That was the default human.
That was the default human. And it went even deeper than that. Even in the animal studies.
How so?
In preclinical trials where they are testing drugs on mice or rats, researchers would often just exclude female animals from the studies.
Why? What was the logic there?
The logic was that their hormonal cycles were considered too variable. They viewed the natural fluctuations of estrogen and progesterone as noise in the data that would, mess up the results.
So they wanted a clean baseline.
A clean baseline, so they used male mice, which is just wild if you think about it.
It is. We can't study females because their biology is too complex, so instead we'll just study males and assume the results magically apply to everyone.
Precisely. They viewed the fluctuations as an inconvenience rather than the reality of half the population.
And the consequences of that are real.
Oh, they're very real. It means women's symptoms are often labeled atypical because they don't match the male textbook symptoms for things like a heart attack. This leads to massive delays in diagnosis.
The statistic that really hit home for me was from the Endometriosis Foundation of America. It takes an average of 7 to 10 years for a woman to get a diagnosis for endometriosis.
7 to 10 years.
Can you imagine living with chronic, debilitating pain for a decade? You go to the doctor, they tell you it's just a bad period, or maybe it's all in your head, or just take some ibuprofen.
And you do this for 10 years before someone finally identifies the biological cause.
Yeah.
That is the massive gap that Femtech is now trying to fill.
So that brings us to the origin story. The term Femtech was actually coined by a woman named Ida Tin. She's the founder of the period tracking app Clue.
That's right. She started Clue in Berlin. And her goal wasn't just to make another app. It was, in her words, to take female reproductive health out of taboo land.
She realized that investors, who were mostly men, they didn't understand the market because they didn't really understand the biology.
So she needed a word to package it, to make it investable, to make them see the opportunity.
She wanted to start a reproductive health revolution. And, well, judging by the market growth, she might have actually succeeded. The market was valued at about $22 billion in 2020.
And the projections, they see it hitting $60 billion by 2027.
That is explosive growth.
It's incredibly fast. And I think for most people, their entry point into this whole world is the apps. I mean, Clue itself has something like 12 million users.
A huge user base. And what's so interesting about Clue and similar apps is the sheer depth of data they're collecting. It's not just when is your period going to start.
No, not at all. It tracks over 30 health categories: your skin condition, your hair, digestion, your energy levels, your emotions.
It's creating a longitudinal data set that doctors never had before.
Right. Usually, a doctor sees a snapshot of your health, once a year for a checkup. These apps see the movie of your health every single day.
But it's moving beyond just tracking for wellness, isn't it? We have to talk about natural cycles. Because this isn't just a calendar. It's got a stamp of approval that makes it totally different.
Yes, this is a pivotal example. Natural Cycles was the first app to be FDA approved as a digital contraceptive.
That is a big distinction. It's not just a wellness tracker anymore. It's a regulated medical device.
Correct. It uses an algorithm based on your basal body temperature to predict your fertile windows. So for women who have had negative experiences with hormonal birth control, the pill, the patch, the mood swings, the weight gain, this offers a hormone-free alternative.
And the tech itself is getting so much smarter. It used to be that you had to wake up and stick a thermometer in your mouth every single morning before you even sat up in bed.
Right. If you move too much, you could ruin the reading for the day.
It was a very high-friction user experience, let's say.
It really was. But now, these apps are syncing with wearables. You've got the Oura Ring, the Apple Watch.
So how does that even work? Does the ring just know you're ovulating?
Not exactly, but it's close. The integration is the key. The wearables track those tiny basal body temperature shifts automatically while you sleep. We know the temperature rises just slightly, about half a degree right after ovulation, because of progesterone production.
Okay, so it's detecting that tiny shift.
And by syncing that data, the algorithm can predict the fertile window up to 2 days after ovulation has occurred. It removes the human error of forgetting to take your temperature or taking it at the wrong time.
It's the Internet of Things for your body, literally. And speaking of things, the hardware in this space is just fascinating. It's not just about software anymore.
No, the hardware innovation is significant. I mean, take breast pumps, for example. For years, they were these loud, bulky machines that basically tethered women to a wall outlet.
So isolating. You'd have to go find a specialized room, plug in, and just sit there while this machine made this loud, rhythmic, mechanical noise.
Exactly. And then comes LV and Willow.
These are the silent wearable ones, right? You can just slip them into a bra and carry on with your meeting.
That's it. It completely changes the lived experience of early motherhood, especially for working mothers. You aren't hiding in a closet plugged into a wall. You can be on a Zoom call. You can be driving. It's about dignity and freedom.
And LV also branched out, didn't they, into pelvic floor health with a Kegel tracking device.
They did. And then there's another device called KEG, which I have to say sounds like a typo of egg, but it's actually this really complex fertility tracker.
Okay, so what does KEG do differently?
It is. KEG is a 2-in-1 device. So instead of temperature, it senses the electrolyte levels of cervical fluid.
Get electrolyte levels.
Yeah. As you approach ovulation, the chemical composition of that fluid changes to help facilitate sperm transport. It becomes less acidic, more conductive. KEG detects that tiny chemical shift to predict fertility, while also helping users with pelvic floor exercises.
That's incredibly high-tech physiology. And, well, we can't ignore the device called Lioness.
Ah, yes. The smart vibrator.
It sounds like a novelty item, something you'd find in a sketchy catalog. But the source material says it uses biofeedback to help users learn about their own physiology.
It does. It's essentially visualizing arousal and orgasm data.
Which goes right back to Ida Tin's point about removing taboos, doesn't it?
It's exactly that. Knowledge is power. If you can actually see the data of how your body reacts, what works, what doesn't, how stress affects your physical response, you have so much more agency over your own sexual health. It stops being this big mystery and starts being science.
Agency seems to be the running theme here, especially when we look at the direct-to-consumer healthcare companies. I'm thinking of a company like hers.
Their tagline is, healthcare that feels like self-care.
Right. And hers, and companies like it, they're bridging that gap between a doctor's visit and the drugstore. They offer prescription skincare, hair loss treatments like minoxidil, and even mental health medications, all through an online assessment.
It creates a much lower barrier to entry. If you're intimidated by going to a specialist for, say, hair loss or adult acne, this feels more like shopping for vitamins online. It's more approachable.
Then you have a company like Maven, which is a unicorn company, meaning it's valued at over $1 billion.
Right, and they offer holistic care for family building, fertility, and menopause. They aren't just selling a single product, they're selling a whole support system. They connect you with doctors, nurses, and coaches virtually.
And on the product side, I really love the story of the Honey Pot.
Yes, founded by a woman who wanted to solve specific issues with chemical-heavy traditional products. They focus on plant-derived feminine care. It's hypoallergenic, dermatologist-tested. It really speaks to a consumer who's becoming much more ingredient conscious about what they put in or on their bodies.
So we have the apps, we have the gadgets, the plant-based care. That's the consumer side. But I want to pivot now to the deep tech, because there is some serious science happening here that goes way beyond just tracking your cycle.
This is where we see the big shift from improving quality of life to actually saving lives. The integration of artificial intelligence into diagnostics is a complete game changer.
And we have a source here from ArcSIF. It's a preprint scientific paper that details a study on ovarian cancer detection. Now, ovarian cancer is notoriously difficult to catch early, isn't it?
It is. It's often called the silent killer because the symptoms like bloating or abdominal pain are so vague until the later stages. By the time it's detected, it is often already spread.
So what's the new tech here?
The study you mentioned is fascinating because it uses something called explainable machine learning. Specifically, they used algorithms called XGBoost and SHAP.
Okay, hold on. XGBoost sounds like an energy drink for gamers. What is that in plain English?
It does, doesn't it? XGBoost stands for extreme gradient boosting. Think of it as a very powerful, very fast way to build a prediction model using thousands of tiny decision trees. It takes a lot of data, patient history, blood markers, age, and it learns to predict outcomes.
But the problem with complex AI, historically, has always been the black box effect, right?
Exactly. The computer gives you an answer. This patient has a high risk, but you have no idea how it got there.
And in medicine, a doctor can't just trust a black box.
No way. They need to know why the AI thinks this patient has cancer before they order an invasive surgery or start a treatment plan. And that is where SHAP comes in.
SHEI.
It stands for Shapley Additive Explanations. It's a bit of a mouthful.
It is.
But the concept is brilliant. It actually comes from game theory. It assigns a value to each piece of data like how much did the patient's age contribute to this prediction? How much did this specific protein marker contribute? It essentially allows the AI to show its work.
So it's like a math student, not just writing down the final answer, but showing all the steps so the teacher knows they actually understand the method.
That's a perfect analogy. And the paper discusses using something they call feature selection, which is inspired by biological evolution, to pick out the most critical risk factors from all the noise.
How does that even work?
It literally mimics natural selection. It starts with a random set of features from the patient data. It tests them to see how well they predict cancer. It keeps the best ones, mutates them slightly by adding or removing a variable, and then tests again.
So it's survival of the fittest for data points.
Exactly. Over generations of this digital evolution, it finds the absolute best combination of data points to predict cancer with the highest accuracy. It's incredible. Using digital evolution to diagnose biological disease.
And this isn't just happening in a lab somewhere. The investment landscape is reflecting this shift. We have data from AOAX, a company in this space, and they highlight that diagnostics and devices are delivering really high capital efficiency.
Capital efficiency, that's investor speak for we get a lot of bang for our buck.
Pretty much. For every dollar invested, these companies are returning significant value. AOADX notes that 2025 is shaping up to be a record year for Femtech exits. So that's the startups being bought by bigger companies or going public. It proves that this isn't a niche anymore. It's a mature, valuable market.
But, and there is always a but, when we talk about big tech and big data,
Always.
there's a dark side to all of this, and we really need to talk about it.
Okay, here is where it gets scary. We are feeding these apps, these AIs, our most intimate personal data. Our cycles, our sexual activity, our temperatures, our symptoms, our moods.
We are. And that data is incredibly valuable. The Economic Times called menstrual data a gold mine for advertisers.
They quoted a stat that just blew my mind. Pregnancy data is considered 200 times more valuable to advertisers than basic demographic info like your age or gender.
200 times. Think about it from their perspective. If an advertiser knows you are pregnant, they know you're about to enter a phase of massive, predictable spending diapers, cribs, clothes, formula. You're a high-value target.
They want to capture your brand loyalty the moment that pregnancy test turns positive.
And their behavior models shift entirely. But it's not just about being sold diapers anymore. Since the overturning of Roe v. Wade in the United States, this has taken a much, much darker turn.
It has. In a post-Roe world, data about a missed period isn't just marketing data. It's potential evidence.
There's a very real fear among privacy advocates that this data could be subpoenaed in states with strict abortion bans to prove a pregnancy existed and was then terminated.
And the track record of these companies isn't exactly spotless, is it? It's not like they have this long history of fighting for user privacy.
Not at all. Look at Flow. It's one of the biggest period trackers in the world. They faced a huge backlash in an FTC settlement because despite promising to keep data private, they were found to be sharing sensitive health data with Facebook and Google for analytics and advertising.
And the Mozilla Foundation did a big review of these apps, didn't they?
They did, and their findings were pretty damning. They found that most of these apps fail basic security standards. They have vague, hard-to-read privacy policies, they share data with a web of third parties, and they don't make it clear how you can actually delete your data permanently.
This is what feminist scholars are now calling the femtrap.
The femtrap. It's this idea that the very tools that are meant to empower women and give them agency over their bodies are actually building a new surveillance infrastructure around those same bodies.
So it frames women's bodies as data points to be mined rather than people to be cared for.
That's the core critique.
So is there any safe way to use this tech? Or do we all just go back to using paper calendars and a red pen?
Well, there is a push for something called privacy by design. Clue, which we mentioned earlier, is based in Europe, in Berlin.
So they fall under GDPR laws.
Exactly. The General Data Protection Regulation, which is much, much stricter than most U.S. data laws. They explicitly market their data safety as a key feature. They have stated they will not sell user data.
So location matters. Jurisdiction really, really matters.
Absolutely. The advice to read the terms of service has never been more important. You need to know where your data is living and who has the keys to the server room.
Okay, so we have the privacy gap. But there's another major gap we need to discuss, the inclusivity gap.
This is a major critique of that first wave of Femtech. Who is it actually for?
Looking at the marketing, at the design, it seems to be for a very specific person. English-speaking, affluent, young, cisgender women. The imagery is always very polished, very Silicon Valley.
And the data supports that impression. A report from bigkey.io shows that 48% of Femtech patents are for fertility, another 32% are for pregnancy.
So wait, that's 80% of the innovation is focused on making babies?
Right. Meanwhile, only 0.55% of funding goes to menopause and aging.
0.55%. That's nothing.
Surrounding error. And women spend, on average, 40% of their lives in perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. And yet, the investment is a tiny fraction of the total. It's a huge age bias.
It's a glaring omission, but it's not just about age, is it? It's about geography and economics. Most of these shiny apps assume you have a high-end smartphone and a constant 4G connection.
Which leaves out billions of women in the global south. But, and this is the part of the research I found the most inspiring, the innovation is happening there too. It just looks completely different. It's not about a $500 smart breast pump.
Yes. Let's talk about MSD for mothers. They have this framework they call the 5 C's of digital inclusion.
They do. And they highlight some incredible examples of what they call e-hybrid care. It's not about replacing the doctor with an app. It's about extending the reach of care to the last mile.
One of the best examples was a tool called Nevi.
Nevi is brilliant. It's a chatbot, but it doesn't require you to download some heavy data-intensive app from an app store. It meets women where they already are on WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger.
And it's available in local languages, right? Not just English. I think I read Hindi, hasta.
Exactly. So it allows women to ask questions about family planning and contraceptives privately on a platform they already use and trust. Then, based on that conversation, it refers them to a local pharmacy or clinic. It bridges the digital and the physical.
It uses the tech they already have to solve a real pressing problem.
It does. And there's MDOC in Nigeria. They use something called nudge hubs.
I love this concept. A nudge hub.
It's basically a community center where they combine digital tools with in-person community ambassadors. Because they realize that technology alone isn't enough if you don't have digital literacy. You need a human to show you how to use the tool to build that trust.
And for the healthcare workers themselves, there's the Safe Delivery app.
This is used by midwives in places like Ethiopia and India. And the crucial feature here is that it works offline.
Why is offline capability so important?
Because if you are in a rural clinic, the internet might be spotty or completely non-existent. If you have a complication during a birth like a hemorrhage, you can't wait for a signal to load a YouTube video.
You need the information now.
Right now. The Safe Delivery app stores everything on the phone. It uses simple visuals and animations to show midwives exactly how to handle dozens of complications. It's life-saving information, accessible without a signal.
That feels like the true promise of this technology, not just convenience for the wealthy, but actual survival.
It really is. It's solving immediate life-or-death problems with smart, appropriate tech.
So looking forward, where does Femtech go from here? We've got the consumer apps, we've got these serious privacy concerns, we've got this amazing global expansion. What's the next frontier?
I think the future is about system-level change. We are moving beyond just reproductive health.
We mentioned menopause finally getting more attention.
Yes. Companies like Maven are expanding their services to cover the entire life cycle, from menstruation through menopause and beyond. They realize that you can't just support a woman while she's pregnant and then, drop her as a customer.
But we're also seeing these very specialized new companies like Wild.ai.
Right. They focus on training and nutrition specifically for female physiology and sports. Because for so long, training advice was for men. Women aren't just small men. Our metabolism changes throughout our cycle. Our susceptibility to injuring changes. Wild.ai helps athletes train with their physiology rather than against it.
And Nirmai in India, they are using AI thermal imaging for breast cancer screening.
That's a huge development. Traditional mammograms can be expensive, they can be painful, and they require radiation. And in many cultures, the invasive nature of a mammogram is a real barrier to screening.
So thermal imaging is different.
It's low cost, it's non-invasive, and it's radiation-free. It makes screening accessible to millions more women who might otherwise avoid a traditional hospital setting.
But the holy grail, according to all the experts we read, is integration.
Integration with electronic health records, or EHRs.
Hmm.
Right now, all that data from your period tracker or your Oura Ring, it just lives on your phone. Your doctor doesn't see it unless you physically show them your screen during your 10-minute appointment.
Which feels so archaic in 2026.
It is. The goal is for that data to flow securely and seamlessly into your medical record so your doctor has a complete picture of your health over time. Imagine if your doctor can see the last 6 months of your symptom tracking before you even walked in the door.
That would be an absolute game changer for diagnosis times. No more trying to remember how you felt 3 Thursdays ago.
It would. And financially, the market is maturing. We are seeing a move from these nascent startups to what's being called a $100 billion exit market.
Right.
This isn't a bubble. It's a correction of a massive, long-standing market failure.
So we've covered a lot today. The $1 trillion opportunity, the shift from taboo to tech, the incredible potential of AI diagnostics, and the very real, very scary dangers of data privacy.
And we also saw that the true revolution might not be the $500 smart breast pump. It might be the offline chatbot in Nigeria helping a woman access contraception. It's about that app helping a midwife save a life.
It's complex, it's messy, but it's undeniably moving forward.
And here's something to chew on as we finish up. We call it Femtech because medicine has defaulted to Mentech for centuries. We needed a specific term to carve out space, to get investment, to be seen. But if this industry truly succeeds, if that data gap is finally closed, maybe the ultimate goal is for the term Femtech to disappear entirely.
Because it will just be called healthcare.
Exactly.
That is a powerful thought. Thanks for diving in with us today. Stay curious.
And read the terms of service.